Fight back. Contra-atacar.
The course teaches women how to fight back if attacked.
Lutar contra.
It's hard for me to fight back against 3 of them by myself.
Contra-atacaram.
The army attacked the town, and the inhabitants fought back fiercely.
Resistiram às críticas.
The concert organizers have fought back against their critics.
Resista à opressão.
Fight back against the oppression of the ruling elite. If you
Resistam.
attack minorities, you must expect them to fight back.
Lutou contra.
Mary bit her lip and fought back her tears.
Luta contra.
Jack White fights back tears during emotional acoustic performance.
Lutar contra.
I fought back the urge to slap him.
Lutei contra o desejo
I
de
fought back the urge to laugh.
punch in. Eu bati o ponto em 10 minutos.
I punched in 10 minutes late this morning and the company fired me.
Se nós batemos o ponto.
If we punch in at 9 a.m., our actual starting time, the company automatically docks us 15 minutes.
Bateu ponto.
What time did you punch in? I punched in at the regular time. If you know how to punch in and punch out, then you can use X-Punch. Punching in with ClockSpot's mobile time tracking software takes 30 seconds or less. I punched in my access code and I was allowed through the door.
Digita seu código.
You punch in your code to get cash or your bank balance.
Digitar o número.
Each door has a number pad, and for security, you have to punch a number in to open the door.
Ele digitou o código de segurança.
He punched in the security code.
Se você digitar
If you punch in the wrong code, the alarm sounds.
punching, digitam.
The latest I have heard is that people with advanced cases of hurry sickness punch in 88 seconds on the microwave instead of 90 because it's faster.
Boil down to. Reduzir esse molho pouco antes de eu poder servi-lo.
I have to boil this gravy down for a while before I can serve it.
Reduzir o caldo.
You boil down the sauce and I'll set the table.
Reduzir os caldos.
You can boil down the leftover juices and make a nice sauce.
Reduzir.
The soup seemed thin, so I boiled it down.
Resume ao custo.
It's difficult to choose which appliance to buy, but in the end, it usually boils down to cost.
Isso se resume à questão.
It boils down to the question of who is going to win.
Isso se resume à questão.
It boils down to a very minor matter.
Resume a uma coisa.
The problem boils down to one thing: lack of money.
Se resume à falta de boa liderança.
All of the complaints at work boil down to a lack of good leadership. The whole question boils down to how will we pay for this?
Reduzir esse problema.
If we could boil this problem down to its essentials, we might be able to solve it.
Reduzir esse problema.
We don't have time to boil down this matter. This is too urgent.
Reduzir.
I am supposed to boil down this 10-page report to half a page.
Resumir sua tese.
John finally managed to boil his thesis down to 200 pages.
Listen up. Ouça com atenção.
Now listen up. This is important.
Ouça com atenção.
Listen up, you guys.
Ouça com atenção.
Listen up. I'm only going to tell you this once. I want you to listen up and do what I tell you to do. Now listen up well. These might well be my last words. Listen up, class. I'm going to explain our next activity. Listen up, boys. Here are your new assignments. Okay, everyone, listen up. I have an announcement to make. I'm only going to say this once, so listen up. Listen up, everyone. Today's topic is phrasal verbs, as in to listen up.
Go back. Por favor, me ligue de volta.
Please call me back. Until 1800, you will reach me on my cell phone. After that, on the landline. Welcome to my answering machine. I'm out eating at Quiznos right now, so call me back later. Have a good day. I will call back when you are not so busy. Please hang up and the operator will call you back. They've called him back for a second interview. He passed the first audition and was waiting to be called back. The director auditioned 6 singers for the part and called 2 back. The company has called back all models of this car built in 2002. After discovering that the toy was unsafe for small children, the company was forced to call it back. These screws are defective. The manufacturer has called them back.
Fez recall, né?
Tom called the students back into the room to tell them about the plane crash. Just as I started walking away, the teacher called me back. She called him back to give him something he had left behind. The workers who were laid off are hoping that management will call them back as soon as the economy improves.
Bring it together. Ele juntou todo mundo.
He brought everyone together in the drawing room.
Reunidos.
They were brought together in a large conference room.
Reunidos.
Thank you for bringing everything together so we can begin work.
Juntamos.
We brought together all the tools that we needed. The event was unique in bringing together politicians, business leaders, and academics.
Juntar
Their dream
computadores.
to bring computers and ordinary people together was nothing less than revolutionary. A common interest in chess and politics brought them together. Fate has brought us together. I tried to bring them together, but they are too stubborn. They could not be brought together on a price. The loss of their son brought the 2 of them together. The disaster brought the community together. In the end, a desire for peace brought the 2 sides together.
Startup. Dê partida no motor.
Start up the motor so we can get going.
Deu partida.
She got into the car and started up the engine.
Deu partida.
Tom started up the car. The car started up first time. When the alarm rang, I started up.
Ele começou.
He started up when I entered the room and tried to hide what he was doing.
Eu tentei começar.
I tried to start up a conversation with her, but I couldn't. How do I start up a texting conversation with someone I have not spoken with in a few months?
Começar.
Starting up a business requires considerable capital. The agency helps over 1,000 firms start up each year.
Startup. Fundar.
She left the company last year to start up her own business.
Ele fundou.
He has started up a new boys' club.
Me introduziu.
My uncle started me up in business.
Introduziu.
I started up my niece in the candy business. The book started me up on the subject.
Spit out. Que eu a cuspi.
The food was so terrible that I spit it out. Babies are always spitting their food out. I spit out the sweet potatoes.
Cuspi fora os
The teacher
pets.
told the child to spit out the gum.
Cuspi.
The fish wasn't cooked enough, and I spit it out.
Vamos lá, diga, desembucha.
Come on, say it. Spit it out.
Desembucha.
How on earth did you get that black eye? Come on, spit it out. Who told you about this?
Eu lhe disse suas
He
palavras.
spit out his words in utter derision.
Ela disse.
She spit out the most unpleasant string of curse words I have ever heard from anyone.
No.
He spat out an insult and marched out of the room. Be sure to taste your words before you spit them out.
Think over. Pensar sobre a proposta.
Let's think over his proposal before we see him again.
Refletir sobre.
She really ought to think it over before she quits school.
Pensando sobre.
Dunham was looking at me, thinking over what he had heard and deciding what it meant.
Refletiram sobre.
The students thought over the story they had just read.
Pensa a respeito.
Here's my proposal. Think it over and let me know how you feel.
Pensar a
I'll have to
respeito.
think it over carefully before I can say yes or no.
Pensar a
I'll think it
respeito.
over and give you an answer next week. I need some time to think over his proposal. I said she could come and live with us, and she said she'd think it over. I've thought over your offer, and I'd like to accept.
Watch out and watch out for. Se você não tomar cuidado, você cairá no gelo.
If you don't watch out, you'll fall on the ice.
Cuidado.
Watch out! There's an icy patch up ahead. They say a storm is coming, so watch out and don't take any chances. Andy saw the car coming toward them and yelled, "Watch out! Watch out! There's a car coming! Watch out! You're going to hit that car! You could have a nasty accident if you don't watch out."
Tomar cuidado com.
When you drive in winter, you have to watch out for icy patches. Watch out for falling rocks. Watch out for pickpockets when you're in a crowd. Watch out for snakes. We will be discussing street crime and what you should watch out for. You've got to watch out for viruses when downloading files to your computer. Watch out for that dog. He's not very friendly. In this neighborhood, you need to watch out for children playing in the street.
Tomar em conta umas das outras.
People in my family have always watched out for one another.
Tomava conta de mim.
When I was a kid, my older brother always watched out for me.
Tomaria conta
Carol's
dela.
father made me promise I'd watch out for her and make sure she had whatever she needed.
Preste atenção nos grandes descontos.
Watch out for big discounts and clearance sales at this time of the year.
Fique de olho no Ryan.
Watch out for Ryan. He's here somewhere.
Nós prestamos atenção.
We watched out for dolphins jumping on the horizon.
Ficaria de olho.
I used to tell everyone, I'd watch out for this girl. She's going to be a great tennis player one day.
But for free. Está sugerindo um novo plano.
Cheryl is putting forth a new plan for the school.
Sugere.
Every year, the coach put forth some new strategy for the players.
Apresentaram ideias.
At the meeting, 20 people put forth ideas for a new street name.
Oferecer nosso melhor.
We will have to put forth our best plan to win the game.
Apresenta ideias.
If you put forth some ideas, I bet they will be accepted.
Nunca dá suas opiniões.
My dad never puts forth his opinions because he doesn't want to be mean. We asked all the parents to put forth ideas for a holiday party.
Não posso sugerir?
I can't put forth any new plans until I finish this one. Julia asked all of her students to put forth ideas about their assignment.
Árvores estão florescendo.
The trees are putting forth new green shoots.
Crescem novamente.
Plants put forth new growth in the spring.
Desabrocham.
Soon the trees put forth their buds.
Floresce.
This bush puts forth new shoots each spring.
Colocam esforço.
The boys have put forth an effort to be nice to their sisters.
Colocam nossos melhores esforços.
We will have to put forth our best efforts to win.
Colocam semblante
At
esforço.
least put forth a semblance of effort when you scrub the floor.
Colocasse esforço.
I wish you would put forth more effort at school. You are going to have to put more effort forth if you want to succeed.
Pushover. Empurrado pelo ciclista.
When I was walking, I was nearly pushed over by the biker.
Empurrar aquela planta.
If you lean on it too much, you are going to push over that plant.
Me empurrou.
My brother pushed me over as he ran for the ice cream truck.
Estava empurrando.
Camilla was pushing over the ladder that fell on top of her.
Empurrar.
You might push over that bench if you lean against it like that.
Bench. Banco.
You pushed over my beautiful dish and now it's broken.
Empurrou.
I accidentally pushed over the bottle too far and it fell on the floor.
Pushover.
Jerry meant to push over Sean so that he could get to the ball first.
Me empurrando.
If you keep pushing me over, I'm going to punch you.
Tear apart. A morte do galo dela ia arrasá-la.
The death of her cat was going to tear her apart.
Arrasar.
This lie might tear apart their family forever.
Fiquei arrasado.
It tore me apart to see her get on the plane.
Mia ficou arrasada.
Maya was torn apart after her parents got divorced.
Está me arrasando.
It's tearing me apart to see you so upset. The end of the movie really tore me apart.
Fica chateado.
Emilio is always torn apart when his students graduate.
Chateio minha irmã.
Bad grades always tear apart my sister.
Fica arrasada.
Her confidence was torn apart when she lost the competition.
Arrasando o casal.
The affair is tearing apart the couple that used to be so in love.
O crítico acabou com todo o
The
elenco.
critic tore apart the entire cast of the play.
Acabar consigo mesmo por cometer crime.
Why do you have to tear yourself apart for making a little error?
Acabar com o trabalho dela.
The professor tore her paper apart.
A guerra separou muitas famílias.
The war tore many families apart.
A crise financeira
The
separou.
financial crisis tore the club apart.
A crise desfez a
The
organização.
crisis tore apart the organization.
A polícia revirou a casa.
The police tore the house apart.
Reviraram o
They
local.
tore the place apart looking for the money.
Revistamos a casa.
We tore the house apart looking for his passport, and now he's gone.
O urso rasgou a
The
barraca.
bear tore the tent apart.
Despedaçaram a fera selvagem.
The lions tore apart the wild beast in minutes and began eating it.
A explosão despedaçou o prédio.
The explosion tore the building apart.
O tornado despedaçou o
The
celeiro.
tornado tore apart the barn.
Fallout. Distanciaram-se depois da briga.
Mateo and Jeff fell out after the fight.
Estavam se distanciando.
The friends were falling out since they both liked the same boy. Grandmother fell out with her sister years ago.
Se ficar mal, se Hugo.
Hugo and his boss might fall out if Hugo doesn't improve his work.
Cair.
In our family, the tooth fairy visits after your tooth falls out.
Cair.
Yuri was so stressed that her hair started falling out.
Caindo.
After she bit into the apple, she could feel her tooth falling out.
Caía.
My dentist told me I need to fill the cavity before the tooth falls out.
Caindo.
As he got older, his hair was falling out more and more.
Tenho que ir embora.
It's late, George. I have to fall out.
Vamos embora.
Let's fall out. I have to get up early in the morning.
Sair, foi
My
embora.
parents will be angry if I don't fall out right now.
Original.
These results fall out directly from the experimental evidence.
Seguiram.
As things fell out, we had a wonderful trip.
Resultou.
What fell out of our discussion was a decision to continue.
Resultará no final.
Let us know how it falls out in the end.
Eles terão de se retirar.
They will have to fall out or they will die.
Se retirarem.
The soldiers were ordered to fall out.
Se retirar.
After inspection, they were ordered to fall out.
Get ahead. Progredir.
You can get ahead in life by working hard.
Progredir na escola.
Rico studied extra hours so that he could get ahead in school.
Progredir no trabalho.
Even when she worked hard, Helen couldn't seem to get ahead in her job.
Prosperar no trabalho. No
The
departamento.
nurse worked overtime so she could get ahead in her department.
progredir neste emprego.
The only way to get ahead in this job is to be really nice to the boss.
Antecipar meu projeto.
I need to work this weekend to get ahead on my new project.
Antecipei fazendo hora extra.
I got ahead by putting in extra hours at the office on nights and weekends.
Está economizando, pedindo ajuda.
Michelle is getting ahead by asking others for help.
Economizaram bastante.
After we settle the hospital bill, we hope to get ahead enough to buy a new car.
Economizar e comprar uma
I
casa.
took a second job to get ahead and buy a house.
Chegar à frente na
We
nossa
were
competição.
determined to get ahead of the competition.
Eu fiquei na frente dela na fila.
I got ahead of her in line.
Ficar na frente dos outros.
The top students want to get ahead so they can go to the best colleges.
Ficar à
We
frente.
tried to get ahead of the heavy traffic by taking a shortcut.
Walk away from. Lena se afastou da briga.
Lena walked away from the fight before she got angry.
Saindo.
We were walking away from the terrible concert when it finally ended.
Não se afaste de mim.
Don't walk away from me while I'm talking to you.
Nori se afastou da conversa.
Nori walked away from the conversation because it was upsetting her.
Meu pai nos abandonou.
My dad walked away from us when I was young, and he never came back.
Deixou aquele trabalho.
My mom didn't like her boss and walked away from that job forever.
Saí daquela.
I didn't like the customer service, so I walked away from that experience unhappy.
Deixando aquele trabalho.
I was finally walking away from the job that I had hated for years.
Deixar.
If you walk away from this dress now, it probably means you don't want it.
Que me deixe afastar daquele.
After 3 years of dating, I had to walk away from that relationship.
Se afastar daquela ocasião.
They were lucky to walk away from that collision.
Se safaram do acidente.
My husband and daughter walked away from their accident.
Como se safar de um acidente de
How
carro?
to walk away from a car accident.
Recusar uma oportunidade.
10 reasons to walk away from a job opportunity. 5 signs it's time to walk away from a home purchase.
Recusar a compra de uma casa.
When to walk away from buying a home.
Send off. Enviar o pacote.
I'm going to send off the package tomorrow morning.
Enviar aquelas cartas.
If you'll send off those letters today, they will arrive by Friday.
Enviando.
Shelley is sending off the invitations to all her friends.
Enviei uma carta ao editor.
I sent off a letter to the editor about the new column yesterday.
Mandamos nossos filhos.
We sent off our kids to sports camp this summer.
Eu a mandei ao escritório.
I sent her off to the principal's office for a punishment.
Meu chefe me mandou para Nova York.
My boss sent me off on a work trip to New York.
Dina foi enviada à prisão.
Gina was sent off to prison after she committed the crime.
O juiz expulsou.
The referee sent off both players for fighting during the match.
Ser expulso.
Arguing with the umpire will get you sent off.
Eu fui expulso depois.
I was sent off after I had one too many fouls during the game.
Foi expulso.
The crowd cheered when their best player was sent off.
Foi expulso. Se despediram de
When
mim.
I retired, my coworkers sent me off with a big party.
Se despedir do
A crowd
político.
gathered at the train station to send off the politician.
Despedir do time de futebol.
A great crowd was at the airport to send the football team off.
Fall off. Realmente diminuíram.
Our sales have really fallen off after the holidays.
Diminuiu.
The number of dates we went on fell off after about a month.
Diminuir.
The pounds will start to fall off when you start exercising.
Diminuíram desde que consertamos.
Our customers' complaints have fallen off since we fixed the product.
Diminuir.
If you don't keep up the marketing, your sales might fall off.
As ações vêm diminuindo.
Stocks have been falling off ever since the company went bankrupt.
Diminuindo.
When I started eating healthy, I noticed the extra pounds falling off.
Diminuindo no começo do verão.
The morning meetings started to fall off at the beginning of summer.
Diminui após o Natal.
The number of customers we have usually falls off after Christmas.
Diminuíram.
Our evening walks fell off when the weather got too cold.
Caíram.
My glasses fell off when I bent down to pick up the paper from the floor.
Quando seu escapamento cai,
When your exhaust falls off, you have to replace it.
para não cair.
And with Lauren on the same bed, she had to be careful not to fall off.
Ela caiu do telhado
He fell
ontem.
off the roof yesterday. If you fell off a horse, surely what you'd hit would be the ground.
O navio mudou o curso.
The ship fell off with a contrary wind to the island.
Mudou seu curso.
The ship fell off about 1.5 points and there stopped.
Mudará o curso pouco.
The wind will act obliquely on the sail, and the ship will fall off but little.
O barco começou a sair do vento a favor.
The boat started to fall off downwind and turned the tiller to press the boat to windward.
Dive in. Mergulhou.
The swimmer stood at the edge of the pool and dived in.
Mergulhar.
The bird flew up suddenly before diving in the water. She wasn't brave enough to dive in. The shark dived in for the bait, threw its back down and stomach up to devour its prey. The submarine dived in the sea waters. A few minutes later, Margarita appeared on the deck. I can't wait to dive into this new project.
Entrar de cabeça.
Bill dove in without making any plans for how to finish his work. My boss always likes to talk about projects before we all dive in.
Começarmos.
As soon as we got the puzzle, we were diving in to solve it. I love diving into a new book when I'm on vacation. The pizza is hot, so dive in. We were so hungry, we forgot to wait for the others before diving in. The food wasn't heated all the way, but we dove in anyways. The guests wanted to dive into the food as soon as they arrived. Mom always tells us to dive in as soon as she serves dinner.
Devoramos. Slip away. Indo por água abaixo.
After losing 3 games, the team could feel the championship slipping away. When Jeff didn't get promoted, he felt his career slip away.
Escapou a oportunidade.
The opportunity slipped away before we had the chance to say yes.
Foi por água abaixo.
My opportunity to be a doctor slipped away when I dropped out of school.
Ir por água
We're
abaixo.
trying to keep the tradition
Morri.
alive, but it's starting to slip away.
Estava piorando.
She became very upset, and her health was slipping away as a consequence.
Piorando.
She found her health rapidly slipping away.
Piora.
Every day, a little more of his strength slips away.
O ano passou voando.
The year has slipped away, and it is hard to believe it's over.
Acabando.
I
Passa
can't believe
rápido.
the month is slipping away. Time slips away.
Passou.
How quickly this week has slipped away. Company and busy hands make the time fly.
Então eu saí, escapei da
I was
festa.
really tired, so I slipped away from the party around 8 p.m.
Saí de fininho.
The movie was so bad that I slipped away before my husband noticed. Maria is slipping away so that she can get home before it rains. Joe is going to slip away on Friday afternoon since his boss is gone.
Saí de fininho.
I'm slipping away before my kids wake up and realize I'm gone.
Estava
The
morrendo.
doctors worked quickly, but the old man was slipping away.
Tio Charles morreu dormindo.
Uncle Charles slipped away in his sleep last night.
Suspeito morreu na
The
frente.
suspect slipped away in front of the police.
Dragon. Estava demorando para sempre.
It seemed like the concert was dragging on forever.
Ia se arrastar até depois da hora.
The meeting was going to drag on past lunchtime.
Se arrastaram por muitas
When
horas.
Dr. Ramirez is in charge, our seminars drag on for many hours.
Arrastou por 12 jogadas.
The game was tied and dragged on to 12 innings.
Estava demorando demais.
I had to complain when the doctor's visit was dragging on too long.
Se arrastou pouco demais.
The movie was good, but the end dragged on a bit too much. When the teacher drags on, her students fall asleep in class.
Demora, enrola, se prolonga.
My dad kept dragging on about how good he is at golf. The story she told was really dragging on when you walked in.
Prolongando.
I don't mean to drag on, but I just love talking about this book.
Prolongar. Make off. Qual a sua opinião sobre?
What do you make of our new teacher?
Opinião sobre a sopa?
Tommy wasn't sure what to make of the soup his mom made.
Opinião sobre o vestido?
I don't know what to make of the bride's dress.
O que você faz delas?
The classes at the community college are what you make of them.
Não fazia muito sentido.
Marley didn't make much of her new life on the island.
É o que você faz dele.
It might not be much money, but it is what you make of it.
Nós tiramos o melhor proveito.
We made the best of the rainy day at the park.
Tirar o melhor proveito.
I admire how she is making the best of such a hard job.
Tirar o melhor proveito.
Nellie makes the best of every situation, even if it seems terrible. I'm going to make the best of this summer internship.
Você quer fazer disso um problema?
Yes, I got home late last night. Do you want to make something of it?
Brigar.
Anne decided to make something of it when Bob said women's studies is not a real discipline.
Não faça disso um problema.
So what if Jim had coffee with your girlfriend? Don't make something out of nothing.
Markdown. Vou abaixar sua nota.
If you don't put your name on your paper, I will mark down your grade.
Então, eu baixei a nota final.
The paper doesn't include sources, so I marked down the final score.
A pessoa estava baixando as notas.
The teacher was marking down grades for students who cheated.
Baixada de preço.
The old fruit gets marked down after 3 days.
Serão baixadas de preço.
Most of the candy will be marked down the day after Halloween. The car was marked down since it had a scratch on the bumper. The clerk is marking down the price of last season's clothes.
Eu estou anotando.
I'm marking down the date of your wedding on my calendar.
Anotou.
The teacher marked down the student's email for later.
Você pode anotar o número?
Will you mark down the number of the restaurant before I forget?
O museu foi marcado para fechamento.
The museum has been marked down for closure.
O prédio foi marcado para
The building was
demolição.
marked down for demolition.
Foi marcado.
It was marked down for pedestrian safety.
Ela foi escolhida.
She was marked down for a job in a factory last year.
Marcado para grandeza.
There was no nonsense here about a man of destiny marked down for greatness.
Blast off. Irá decolar.
The spaceship will blast off in 30 minutes.
Decole.
Once the spaceship blasts off, it takes 8 minutes to get to space.
Prática decolagem.
Astronauts have to practice blasting off so they know what to expect.
Foguetes decolam.
Rockets blast off at a speed of 5 miles per second.
Está decolando.
Over 5 million people watched the spaceship as it was blasting off.
Decola.
As the ship blasts off, astronauts are strapped in their seats.
Estivesse decolando.
Just minutes before the ship was blasting off, the captain stopped the operation.
Lancei e soltei.
I blasted off some fireworks during the celebration. After the parade, rockets blasted off into the night sky. The kids went to an empty field and blasted off their rockets. I put some bullets in the gun and blasted a few rounds off to test.
Explodi.
Be careful not to blast your fingers off with that loaded gun.
Explodiram.
To make room for the new road, the workers blasted off a large rock from the side of the hill.
Removeram o escrito da parede.
They blasted the writing off the wall with a stream of sand.
Remover a tinta da parede.
We will have to blast the paint off the wall.
Saiu rapidamente, partiu.
Anne blasted off for the library so she could study.
Eu tenho que ir.
I've got to blast off. It's late.
Nós precisamos sair.
We need to blast off right now if we are going to get to the party on time.
Ficam doidas.
They give parties where people blast off.
Fica chapado.
I know, but I want to blast off.
Você quer
Do
ficar
you want to
chapado?
blast off this weekend?
Blast off. Fica chapado. Iron out. Esclarecer todos os detalhes.
We can iron out all the details before we leave.
Esclarecer e explicar.
The doctor will iron out all your new prescriptions before you go.
Esclarecer.
The
Iron.
teacher will help iron out the students' misunderstandings.
Esclarecido.
I'm sure we can get this ironed out once we hear all the facts.
Resolver os problemas.
I can iron out the problems with your order over email.
Ela precisa resolver sua agenda.
She needs to iron out her schedule for work next week.
Resolver os detalhes do evento.
Mom sent a message to the principal to iron out the event details.
Resolver as questões das minhas.
I had to ask the mailman to iron out the issue with my lost packages. The boys had to go to the counselor's office to iron out their disagreement.
Resolvendo.
Dad is busy ironing out a huge order on the phone.
Ajustar os detalhes.
Let's get together and work on our parts in the play so we can iron out any kinks.
Ajustar os detalhes.
The opening day for the ceremony is coming. Let's get together and talk about it so we can iron out any kinks that may be left.
Ajustar os detalhes.
They started rehearsing the Christmas concert well in advance in order to iron out the kinks by December 20th.
Ajustar os
The
problemas.
teacher ironed the kinks out of the test schedules.
Tirou os
She
amassados.
ironed the wrinkles out of the dress.
Tirar os vínculos, dobras.
Do you think we can iron out the creases in those curtains? There are still a few creases that need to be ironed out.
Eu passei as cortinas.
I ironed out the drapes.
Calm down. Me acalmar.
It took me a few minutes to calm down after the fight. Marco's girlfriend always tells him to calm down during soccer games. The police officer asked the shouting man to calm down. Calm down and think about how bad it could have been. The baby will calm down if you play quiet music. I'm so excited that it's hard to calm down and go to sleep. If you don't calm down, I'm going to have to call the principal. When Tina calms down, ask her how the accident happened.
Acalmou.
After a few hours, my mom finally calmed down and could talk. Hank went running in order to calm down from his stressful workday.
Lock up. Trancar tudo.
Since you are the manager, you have to lock up before you can leave work.
Trancamos.
We always lock up the house when we leave for vacation. I'm locking up these windows so no one can break in. You locked up the basement before we left, right?
Tranca.
Sheila locks up her jewelry in a safe every night.
Trancados.
These watches don't cost much, so they don't need to be locked up. Are you locking up the money we made tonight?
Ser preso.
That man is so dangerous, he needs to be locked up. They are going to lock her up after it was announced that she was guilty. I hope they lock up whoever did this crime.
Come by. Vem.
Why don't you come by for dinner tonight?
Vem visitar.
Aunt Marta is going to come by for tea this afternoon.
Fazer uma visitinha.
We wanted to come by, but we didn't know if you were home.
Fez visita.
Joe came by this morning to drop off the tools.
Vem.
She is coming by after work to pick up her son.
Eu consegui.
I came by some free tickets to the concert yesterday.
Encontrou.
Did you ever come by any more information about the event?
Conseguiu todo aquele dinheiro.
How did she come by all that money?
Encontrando novas tendências.
Sarah is always coming by new trends and fashions.
Sempre encontro algo.
Whenever I go to the flea market, I always come by something interesting.
Beat up. Bateram no homem.
The gang members beat up the man who walked down the alley.
Beat me up.
My older brother used to beat me up when we were younger.
Te bateram no caminho da escola.
I can't believe you got beat up on the way to school. The bully at school is always beating up younger kids.
Meu pai não para de criticar meu irmão.
My dad won't stop beating up my brother about the mistakes he made.
Hank culpa a si mesmo.
Hank beats himself up whenever he doesn't perform well.
Me culpar.
I can't help but beat myself up whenever I don't make good grades. Will you beat up those eggs before you put them in the dough?
Eu vou bater alguns ovos.
I'm going to beat up some eggs and milk for our omelet.
De bater o creme.
She forgot to beat up the cream before she put it in the batter.
Hunt down. Procurar ingrediente especial.
I had to go to 3 stores to hunt down the special ingredient.
Caçar o urso.
The men wanted to hunt down the bear that ruined their campsite.
Perseguindo o rato.
Selena was hunting down the mouse that she saw in the kitchen.
Procuro os melhores preços.
When I go to the mall, I always hunt down the best prices.
O leão estava caçando a gazela.
The lion was hunting down the gazelle in the tall grasses.
Procurou toda a informação.
Nia hunted down all the information before her trial.
Perseguindo os meninos.
The police officer was hunting down the boys who stole the bread.
Minha mãe procura pelas receitas.
My mom hunts down good recipes when her sisters come to visit. I was hunting down my lost keys when you called.
Caçar coelho.
We need to hunt down a rabbit so we can have something to eat.
Give it up for. Aplaudiu o cantor.
After the wonderful performance, the audience gave it up for the singer.
Estão aplaudindo seu professor.
The students are giving it up for their teacher who completed a cartwheel.
Deu uma estrela. Vão aplaudir.
Let's give it up for all the contestants who came out tonight.
Aplaudindo o mágico.
We clapped loudly, giving it up for the magician after his tricks.
Aplaudindo alto.
The musicians played well, and the audience was giving it up for them loudly.
Os fãs aplaudiram.
When the concert was over, the fans gave it up for their favorite band.
Aplaudiram a banda mais alta.
The audience wanted an encore, so they gave it up for the band even louder.
Os professores estão aplaudindo os alunos.
The teachers were giving it up for the students that performed well.
Aplaudir a bibliotecária.
Mom told us to give it up for the librarian who read a whole poem out loud.
Leia aplaudiu.
Leia gave it up for her students who scored well on their test.
Disagree with. Discorda.
My mother disagrees with my choice to become a teacher.
Discordou.
The coach disagreed with the umpire during the baseball game.
Discorda.
Shamina's dad always disagrees with the host of the news show.
Discordo.
Sometimes I disagree with my daughter's teacher. The chef disagrees with the way the restaurant is managed.
Não cai bem.
That meal disagreed with my stomach last night.
Não fez bem para mim.
I don't eat Brussels sprouts because they disagree with me.
Não fez bem.
Jose thinks the milk was old because it disagreed with his stomach.
Não me caem bem.
Dairy products disagree with me, so I took them out of my diet.
Não fazendo bem.
Nia hasn't eaten rice recently because it keeps disagreeing with her.
Climb down. Voltar atrás.
The professor had to climb down from his strong opinion.
Voltar atrás.
My dad is stubborn and doesn't like to climb down from his ideas.
Voltar atrás. Climb down.
I knew I was right, so it was hard to climb down from my suggestion.
Recuar de suas próprias opiniões.
Helen is very humble and finds it easy to climb down from her own opinions.
Não pôde voltar atrás.
He couldn't climb down from his opinion and fought with the teacher.
Nós descemos a montanha.
After hiking all day, we climbed down the mountain.
Descer as escadas.
It's hard for my grandmother to climb down the stairs.
Descer o lado do penhasco.
Maria used her rope to climb down the side of the cliff.
Descer a escada no escuro.
The attic didn't have a light, so we had to climb down the ladder in darkness.
Descer dele.
The truck is so high, it's hard for children to climb down from it.
Bear with. Suportar. O médico teve que suportar.
The doctor had to bear with the patient as she cried in pain.
Tivesse paciência.
Jimmy asked Susan to bear with him as he read the directions.
Ter paciência comigo.
My mom has to bear with me as I learn to play the drums.
Não pode mais suportar.
Kelsey can't bear with the noise from her upstairs neighbors anymore.
Tenha paciência.
Please bear with me as I pull the splinter out of your foot. The teacher has to bear with the mistakes her young students make.
Paciência comigo.
Bear with me as we make corrections to the errors in your paper.
Paciência comigo.
Dinner will be ready soon, so bear with me just a little bit longer.
Ter paciência com ele.
He is slow at fixing things, so we will have to bear with him for a while.
Está suportando com micro-ondas por agora.
Mila's oven isn't working, so she is bearing with the microwave for now.
Coming to. Entrei na casa.
I came into the house when it started to get cold outside.
Entrou no escritório.
Lester came into the office angry because of what his boss said to him.
Entrar no trabalho.
Mr. O'Brien wouldn't let Jackson come into work until he had gotten over the flu.
Não entrou na festa.
Margaret didn't come into the party until her ex-boyfriend had already left.
Chegaram na festa.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith came into the party right as dinner was being served.
Chegaram ao campo.
The baseball players came onto the field just before the game started.
Eu cheguei ao trabalho.
I came into work after I dropped my kids off at school this morning.
Ellen recebeu algumas.
Helen came into some bad news about her best friend from high school.
Recebeu informação.
Mr. Jackson came into the information about the new job by reading the local newspaper.
Recebeu informação.
My banker came into some helpful information about stocks that he shared with me.
Turn away. Impedidos de entrar.
We were turned away from the fancy restaurant because we had on shorts. The concert tickets were sold out, so Janie and John were turned away.
Impede quaisquer novos clientes
When
de
the
entrar.
movie theater was packed, the workers had to turn away any new customers.
Recusou a garota saudável.
The doctor's office turned away the healthy girl because they had too many sick patients to deal with.
Impediu de entrar no meu avião.
I didn't buy the right ticket, so the airport security turned me away from my plane.
Eu recusei a sopa.
I turned away the soup that the waiter brought because it was cold.
Dispensou os ingressos.
Mr. Juarez turned away the tickets because he couldn't go to the show anymore.
Recusou nossa gorjeta.
The taxi driver turned away our tip because he wanted to leave quickly.
Meu professor rejeitou.
My professor turned away my presentation because it looked sloppy.
Dispensou açúcar.
Shelley has turned away from processed sugar because she thinks it is too unhealthy for her diet.
Step back. Precisamos recuar.
As a leadership team, I think we need to step back and consider our goals.
Recuou.
The head coach stepped back and made some big changes in the team's starting lineup.
Recuar e considerar.
I think you need to step back and consider if you really want to pursue journalism or if you want to do art.
Afastar.
After 5 years of dating, we decided to step back and consider dating other people.
Eles recuaram.
When the team had lost 6 games in a row, they stepped back and considered new strategies for playing.
Passo para trás.
Don't step back or you might fall over the edge.
Se afastou.
When her boss started yelling at her, Maria stepped back.
Recue para aqui.
Step back so I can fit you in the picture. The delivery man asked me to step back so he could get through.
Afaste da chama.
Step back from the flame or your clothes might catch on fire.
Watch over. Meus pais vão tomar conta das nossas crianças.
My parents are going to watch over our kids while we go away this weekend.
Tomar conta.
Can you watch over my bag while I go to the restroom?
Tomar conta.
Who is going to watch over Selena's dogs while she is on vacation? I can't believe they let Stefano watch over the kids. He's so irresponsible. My banker does a great job of watching over all my finances. The doctor will send a nurse to watch over the sick boy throughout the night. Emilio does such a good job watching over his vegetable garden.
Tomar conta.
I need someone to watch over my house while I am away on business.
Tomar conta.
The babysitter who watches over our kids is such a nurturing caretaker. The guard watches over the statues so that no one tries to climb them.
Am at.
The commercial was aimed at children ages 4 to 8 years old.
Estava voltado, né? Estava voltada para adultos.
Josh's fundraiser was aimed at wealthy adults who could give lots of money to his cause.
Estava voltado para Sasha.
My sarcastic comment about being on time was aimed at Sasha, who is always late for class.
São voltados para ensinar.
The new computer classes are aimed at teaching how computers work.
Voltados.
We aimed our discussion at a solution to the financial problems.
Miraram no alvo.
The archers drew back their arrows and aimed at the target.
Mirar.
If you have an infrared remote control, you need to aim at the inside rear view mirror.
Apontada para sua cabeça.
This gun is aimed at your head. This
Visa.
new program aims at raising awareness about privacy issues.
Visa.
These protocols aim at creating preferential conditions of access to the bank's offer of financial products and services for company employees.
Não visam retorno imediato.
The logic of self-surpassing does not aim at immediate return.
Touchdown. Aterrissou em Nova York.
After 5 hours in the air, the plane finally touched down in New York.
Pousaram em
3
Oklahoma.
tornadoes touched down in Oklahoma yesterday.
Pousar em Marte.
The Apollo shuttle is supposed to touch down on Mars in 3 months.
Não tinha nem aterrissado.
My flight hadn't even touched down before people were taking off their seatbelts.
Tocaram o chão.
The referees were deciding if the player's feet touched down before he went out of bounds.
Tocar o chão.
The hurricane is forecasted to touch down in Miami on Sunday.
Vai aterrissar.
Our flight will touch down in Germany to get more fuel, then we'll continue on to Dubai.
Tocaram o chão.
Lightning touched down in the field behind our house last night.
Aterrissou, chegou.
After reviewing the play, the team scored because the player touched down in the end zone.
Aterrissou.
When our flight touched down, I called a taxi to pick me up at the airport.
Set aside.
Aqui, meu filho.
Set aside. Eu vou separar.
I'm going to set aside these 3 cupcakes for your brothers to eat later.
Separaram um pouco.
Nell and Jamie set aside some money to go on vacation this summer.
Separa os ossos.
My mom always sets aside the chicken bone to make stock for her soups.
Separa essas maçãs.
Let's set these apples aside so that we can eat them for snack tomorrow.
Eu separei meu tênis.
I set aside my tennis shoes to take to charity because they are worn out.
O quitandeiro teve que descartar os morangos.
The grocer had to set aside the strawberries because they were mushy.
Descartar.
The coffee maker is broken, so set it aside to take to the trash.
O juiz anulou o caso.
The judge set aside the case and ordered a new jury for the trial.
Minha mãe invalidou, acabou com a discussão.
My mom set aside the argument and told both of us to go to our rooms.
Anularam sua inscrição.
After they realized she had cheated, the judges set aside her application.
Step forward. Deu um passo à frente, se ofereceu.
When no one else stepped forward, Luca decided to volunteer. 3 parents stepped forward to help with the class field trip.
Voluntariaram-se.
If you hadn't stepped forward, I would have never finished that presentation. The hospital really needs people to step forward and help with the fundraiser.
Se voluntariou.
Marcy stepped forward to help her mom clean the house.
Deu um passo à frente.
Step forward so I can get a better look at your new glasses.
Dá um passo à frente.
If you step forward a bit, you will be out of the sun.
Dá um passo à frente.
The MC asked all the people who won an award to take a step forward. Could you step forward so that I can see the stage better? Step forward so I can wipe that chocolate off your face.
Retout. Está sempre dedurando.
Melody is always ratting out her mischievous classmates to her teacher.
Me dedurou.
I can't believe you ratted me out. I thought we were friends.
Me dedurou.
If James will rat out his friends, his punishment will not be so severe.
Dedurou o criminoso.
The witness ratted out the criminal so that he could get the wanted reward.
Dedurou para seu chefe.
When Joe saw his coworker taking money from the cash register, he ratted him out to his boss.
Minha irmã desistiu de nós logo.
My sister ratted out on us right before the movie started.
Desiste dos planos.
She is unreliable and always rats out on plans that we have made.
Desistiu da oportunidade.
We were going to be business partners, but he ratted out on the opportunity.
Desistiu de sua posição voluntária.
Mrs. Smith became too busy and ratted out on her volunteer position.
Desiste no último minuto.
Mike always says yes to social plans, but then he always rats out at the last minute.
Pull up. Encostar, parar do lado daquele meio-fio.
If you'll just pull up beside the curb, I'll get out of the car here.
Encostou, parou.
The bus pulled up to the stop right on time.
Encostar, parar.
We can unload the boxes if you will pull up the van into the driveway. If I pull up the car any further, I'm going to hit the curb.
Você pode pegar, abrir
Will you pull up that email from the travel agent so we can look at the schedule again?
Abra o website de esportes.
Pull up the sports website so we can check the score of the game.
Abra a previsão do tempo.
Haley pulled up the weather forecast so we can see what type of clothes we should pack.
Puxam seus suprimentos.
The construction workers pull up their supplies by using a crane.
Remover, puxar.
We are going to pull up the old carpet to replace it with new carpet. The rock climbers use rope to pull up their climbing supplies on the cliff.
Perk up. A me animar antes do trabalho.
This coffee is really going to help me perk up before work.
Animar.
If this song doesn't help you to perk up, I don't know what will. Jason always perks up whenever Charlotte walks in the room. My mom used to sing songs to help perk me up when I was in a bad mood. Perk up. It will stop raining soon.
Animar.
If you don't perk up soon, we aren't going to stop by the candy store.
Anima.
Jerry's dad always perks up when he is able to take a short nap after work.
Irão se animar.
I think the employees will perk up when they hear about the pay raises.
Se animaram.
The residents of the coastal town perked up once the rainstorm went away.
Se animou.
Jose perked up when his girlfriend brought him lunch at work.
Mess around. Não pode brincar.
I know he's your younger brother, but you can't mess around with him so much.
Brincando.
Jack was just messing around, but his jokes still hurt Sarah's feelings.
Brinca demais.
She doesn't like hanging out with Remy because Remy messes around a lot and is too sarcastic.
Pode brincar.
Just because he's a stray dog doesn't mean that you can mess around or be mean to him.
Brincando com as crianças.
Carlo got into trouble because he was messing around with the younger kids and making them upset.
Está sempre saindo com as mulheres.
Mr. Keel is such a charmer and is always messing around with the women in his office.
Estava cometendo adultério.
Nancy and Gerard broke up because Nancy was messing around with other guys.
Sair com outras pessoas.
If you don't stop messing around with other people, we can't keep dating.
Saindo com colegas de trabalho.
Jeff felt like he needed to be honest with his girlfriend and tell her that he was messing around with his coworker.
Cometendo adultério.
Most of the time, relationships don't last long if one person is always messing around.
Hand in. Entregar sua prescrição ao farmacêutico.
Kelly went to the pharmacy to hand in her prescription to the pharmacist. If you hand in your paper today, you get 5 extra credit points on your grade.
Entregar minha carta de demissão hoje.
Unfortunately, I have to hand in my letter of resignation today.
Entregar suas chaves.
You can hand in your keys when you check out of the hotel.
Entregues ao professor.
The outline for your papers must be handed in to the professor by Friday.
Entregar.
I went to the manager's office to hand in my application and introduce myself.
Entregar.
If Sean doesn't hand in his payment today, he might not be back in time tomorrow. All students must hand in their permission slips by Monday in order to go on the field trip. Janelle got a B on her project because she handed it in 2 days late. If you hand in your application today, they might review it early.
Live up to. Meio que não estava de acordo com todas as avaliações.
The food at the resort hasn't quite lived up to all the reviews we read in the brochure.
Estava de acordo com.
Javier and Leela went on a fabulous tour yesterday that more than lived up to their expectations.
Estava de acordo.
The new soccer recruit hasn't quite lived up to the level of success that everyone thought he would. The apartment we rented didn't quite live up to the pictures that we saw of it online.
Estava de acordo. Está à altura.
It's hard to live up to the same level of success that my dad had as a lawyer.
Está à altura.
The cruise really lived up to the high expectations of the Gerard family because they had a great time.
Nunca está à altura.
The arroz con pollo that we order at the restaurant never lives up to the arroz con pollo that my mom makes at home.
Está de acordo com seus
My
requisitos.
boss has very high expectations, and I can never seem to live up to her standards.
Está à altura dela.
Their performance was so good that the other contestants are going to have a hard time living up to it. The young pilot definitely lived up to his own expectations when he won that award.
Going. Entrar.
I couldn't go into the meeting until I had fixed my crooked tie.
Entrar.
Hallie goes in before school every day to get help from her teacher.
Entrar na loja.
My mom wanted to go in the store to get milk before we walked home.
Entrou de acordo.
Jefferson went in with the other players on the team very easily.
Ter entrado em acordo.
I could have gone in with the other contestants just as well.
Entrou em acordo.
Mario went in with the other investors to start the company.
Deveriam ser adicionados na massa até o finalzinho.
The eggs really shouldn't go in the batter until the very end.
Que vão nessa lasanha.
Mr. James told us there are 3 different cheeses that go in this lasagna.
Vão nesse sorvete.
I don't know what ingredients go in this ice cream, but it sure is delicious.
Nunca parece ser entendida.
It doesn't matter how many times his teacher tells him, the information never seems to go in.
Começarão a ser entendidos.
If I can just read the passage a few times, the meanings of the words will start to go in.
A informação será entendida.
The information will go in once I've had a chance to hear it and read it by myself.
Fall into. Começou a ser babá.
Sarah fell into babysitting every afternoon because she was bored and available.
Comecei a pintar.
I sort of fell into painting because I enjoyed the creative side of it.
Começaram a resolver.
Our vacation fell into place once we booked the flights.
Começou a ensinar.
George fell into teaching after he tutored some of his neighbors last summer and enjoyed it.
A atriz começou no papel.
The actress fell into the role when she accidentally showed up for the wrong audition.
Se enquadram.
The athletes normally fall into 2 categories, fast and slow.
Se dividem.
Our tomatoes fall into the spring or summer seasons, depending on their variety.
Se enquadram.
The teachers normally fall into liberal arts or vocational topics.
Se enquadrar.
The reading class can either fall into the sciences or the arts, depending on the student's work.
Se enquadram.
Bananas fall into the ripe category when they have turned yellow.
Cool down. Refrescar.
After walking up 5 flights of stairs, I sat by the window to cool down.
Se refrescarem.
When baseball practice ended, the players jumped in the pool to cool down.
Esfria.
Once the sun starts, the temperature always cools down.
Refrescar tanto.
Even after drinking some water, I couldn't seem to cool down that much.
Acalmar pouco.
I know he made you upset, but you need to cool down just a little bit.
Se acalmar.
Jack, maybe you should cool down before you talk to your dad about the mistake.
Se acalmar.
It took Shannon a few hours to cool down after the fight with her boyfriend.
Parou de comer.
Even though Maria loved granola, she cooled down on it after she had eaten it for breakfast every day this month.
Eu desanimei de escutar.
I've cooled down on the Rolling Stones, since they haven't made any good music recently.
Esfriaram.
After 3 years of dating, Marcia and Jack had cooled down on their relationship and decided to break up.
Dive through. Dirigir para as montanhas.
Driving through the Blue Ridge Mountains in the fall is beautiful because of all the scenery.
Eu vou passar pelo McDonald's.
I'm going to drive through McDonald's and get some milkshakes for us.
Dirija para a vizinhança.
Just drive through the neighborhood to see if we can find the missing dog.
Dirigir por túneis.
Marty loves driving through tunnels because they are dark and eerie. It's dangerous to drive through the desert without much gas. We will drive through the night so that we can arrive at the beach by morning. Drive through the parking lot one more time to see if we can find her bag. James hates driving through this part of the country because it's so flat and boring. Since it's so late, let's just drive through a fast food restaurant and pick up some dinner. I drove through the mountains of Canada once, and it was a difficult drive.
Blow off. Me deu o cano.
Mr. Roberts has blown me off 3 times this week, and I'm started to get mad.
Me deu o cano.
Tim couldn't believe that his girlfriend blew him off to go out with her friends.
Deu o cano.
I was so embarrassed about my grade that I blew off the meeting with my professor. Nancy was so tired that she blew off the lunch plans with her brother.
Deram cano.
3 patients blew off their physical therapy appointments this afternoon.
Furar uma consulta.
There is no reason to blow off a dentist appointment, especially if your tooth is hurting you.
Dá o cano.
Kellen decided to blow off his study group since he knew he was going to do well on the test anyways.
Eu a ignorei quando ela
Mrs. Gregory always lets me turn in my papers late, so I blew her off when she said I had to turn my project in on time.
procrastinou.
Even though her presentation was tomorrow, Jimena blew off preparing until the last minute.
Ignorar uma ligação.
Mercy can't afford to blow off the call with her advisor anymore because she needs to graduate on time.
Breakdown. Descontrolou-se e chorou.
After holding in her emotions during the performance, Sylvia broke down and cried during the final applause. When Joe told Sarah he cheated on her, she had a breakdown and cried. I had an emotional breakdown during the movie because it was so sad.
Quebrasse.
Jose had his car for 15 years before the engine finally broke down.
E parou de funcionar.
After Hannah sharpened a whole pack of pencils, the pencil sharpener overheated and broke down.
Quebrou no fim de semana.
The construction workers could not go into work today because the excavator broke down over the weekend.
Desmoronou.
The basketball team had a breakdown in the last quarter when their star player had to leave the game because of an injury.
Veio abaixo.
The leadership at the school broke down after the principal was fired.
Que dividiram em 2 pedaços que coubessem.
Sherry's flag stand wouldn't fit in her car, so she had to break it down into pieces that would fit.
Desmontaram o palco.
After the concert, the workers broke down the stage and the music equipment. The table was too large to fit into the door of the apartment, so the men had to break it down into smaller parts.
Explicaram detalhadamente.
Because the chemistry topic was so difficult, the teacher knew she would need to break it down into 3 smaller lessons.
Explicou a dança.
The choreographer broke down the dance into 4 parts that would be easier for the dancers to learn.
Explicá-la.
I know the schedule for the trip is difficult to understand, so I can break it down into smaller amounts of time.
Desmontar-se e remover a antiga.
The farmer and his son had to break down the old fence so the cows could pass through. Cassie broke down the barricades that were blocking the running trail.
Desmontou e removeu.
Police officers came to help break down and remove the tree that fell in the middle of the highway.
Hack into. Invadiu a base.
He hacked into the government database and stole a lot of data.
Invadir a base de central.
He was tried and convicted of hacking into the CIA central database.
Invadir.
They hack into banks and transfer huge amounts of cash.
Estão te hackeando.
How will I know if someone is hacking into you?
Hackear os americanos.
Donald Trump publicly invited Putin to hack into Americans.
Hackeando. invadindo.
Just find someone who can help you hack into your spouse's Facebook account to find the truth and bring your spouse back. Anyone who tries to hack into a government site is in big trouble. This means you might think you have free access after hacking into a system. Practice first by hacking into your own computer. Hacking into someone else's system is illegal.
Trickle down. A água pingou da parede
The water trickled down the wall to the floor.
para o chão. Pingou.
It trickled down very slowly.
Pingaram. Esse tipo de atitude atinge as crianças.
This type of attitude trickles down to the children.
Atingiu os pobres.
Despite the economic boom, few benefits have trickled down to the poor.
Se espalharam para as pessoas.
The results of the improved economy trickled down to people at lower income levels.
Finalmente chegou a mim.
Information about what happened finally trickled down to me.
É distribuído aos donos do capital.
The sociology professor believed that money rarely trickles down from the owners of capital to the workers who toil in the factories.
Ser redistribuídos.
For years, we have been told that the effects generated by the market would trickle down, and that in the end, everyone would benefit. The kind of plan that Donald has put forth would be trickle-down economics all over again.
Shut up. Calar a boca.
He told us to shut up and start working.
Cala essa boca.
I wish he'd shut up about his holiday. Why don't you shut up? Can't you shut the kids up for just 5 minutes? I've told you what I think, and now I'll shut up. They shut the shop up for a fortnight while they were on a holiday.
Fecharam a loja. Trancava, confinava para trabalhar.
Every day she went up to a little room on the 3rd floor where she shut herself up to work.
Trancada em uma grade.
At night, we always kept the dog shut up in its cage.
Fechadas fortemente.
The windows were shut up tightly so no rain came in.
Trancadas a si mesmo.
Many students shut themselves up in their rooms to study.
Step aside. Está se afastando.
The manager announced he is stepping aside.
Afastar-se.
Everyone thinks that the prime minister should step aside so that someone new can lead the party into the election.
Se afastar.
Many would prefer to see him step aside in favor of a younger man.
Se afastar.
I implore the African Union and the African countries to use all the resources at their disposal to persuade Mugabe step aside.
Afastar-se pelo.
The chairman of the board asked the executive to step aside for his appointed successor.
Abriu caminho.
At the end of her term, she stepped aside and allowed the new employee to take over.
Abra caminho.
Please step aside. I've got my arms full of groceries.
Se afastar para meu tio.
Would you step aside for my uncle and his walker?
Abrir caminho.
We had to step aside for the people in wheelchairs to get by.
Eu me afastei para o corredor passar.
I stepped aside to let the jogger pass.
Chip in. Contribuir com $1.
Could you chip in $1 on the gift, please?
Contribuir para
The
comprar.
3 friends decided to chip in to buy John an expensive birthday present.
Contribuir com €100.
They each chipped in €100 and bought their mother a trip to Greece. Everyone chipped in with ideas for the baby shower.
Contribuir.
Perhaps the commission can chip in and give another idea.
Contribuir.
I wanted to chip in, but I couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Oportunidade de falar.
Can I chip in? I just wanted to say that I thought your presentation was fantastic.
Permita-me interromper.
Mr. President, allow me to chip in with my own, somewhat different angle.
Você pode interromper.
You can chip in anytime.
Se eu puder interromper,
If I could chip in, there are a couple of issues I'd like to raise.
check off. Riscar a tarefa da lista.
Don't forget to check off the task after you have completed it.
Tirava da minha lista.
As I put the groceries in the cart, I checked them off on my list. She checked off the candidates' names as they arrived.
Eu riscava o nome.
I checked off the children's names as they arrived.
Vou tirar você da lista.
I am glad to see that you were able to come. I will check you off.
Eu risquei os itens da lista.
I checked the items off. I checked off the recent arrivals. He checked off their names as the passengers got on the bus. Check the names off as the guests arrive. As I packed my case, I checked everything off on my list.
Back off. Recuaram.
The guys backed off when they saw the police coming.
Eu afastei o carro.
Using signals, I backed the car off from the crushed bicycle.
Se afaste do carro.
Back off the car ahead of you. You're driving too close to it. The police told the protesters to back off.
Recuarem.
Everyone back off and let the doctor through.
Recuou.
As the riot police approached, the crowd backed off.
Se afastou.
The press have agreed to back off and leave the couple alone.
Se afastar.
She asked him to back off and give her some space.
Recuou.
The government has backed off from its decision.
Me deixe em paz, pode ser?
Back off, will you? I'll tell you when I'm ready.
Me deixe em paz.
Back off, there's no need to yell at me.
Não me deixava em paz.
Even as I left the store, the salesman wouldn't back off me.
Deixaram em paz.
Whenever anyone bothers me, I just tell them to back off.
Dig in.
Can you move your bag over a bit? Because the latch is digging into my side.
Pressionando do meu lado. Pressiona meu pulso.
The cuff of my bracelet digs into my wrist whenever I have to type on the computer.
Pressiona.
Sandy was so nervous that she couldn't help her nails digging into the palm of her hands.
Mexer o solo.
You really have to dig into the soil to get it soft enough to plant the flower bulbs.
Remexendo a peida de
Jules
areia.
was digging into the pile of sand to see if he could find the lost bucket.
Remexer o solo.
Carrots normally grow so deeply into the ground that you really have to dig into the soil to put them all the way out.
Se prepara e trabalha horas extras.
When the stressful season of work comes, Bob always digs in and works extra hours.
Mergulha nos estudos.
During exam time, Amarita digs into her studies to make sure she is prepared.
Não se prepara e terminar.
If you don't dig in and get these projects done, we won't get paid on time.
Os meninos devoraram seu jantar.
The boys dug into their dinner after coming in from the house on the soccer field.
Devorem.
After putting the delicious turkey on the table, my mom exclaimed, "Dig in!"
E devorar seus
And
irmãos.
if you don't go ahead and dig in, your brothers might eat all the ice cream before you have a chance.
Goof around. Donald zoou tanto na aula.
Donald goofed around in class so much that his teacher finally sent him to detention. I'm cooking right now, and if you don't quit goofing around, I'm going to accidentally cut you with this knife.
Estão sempre brincando.
The two little girls are always goofing around in the backyard, playing make-believe games of cops and robbers.
Sempre zoando.
Trent is always goofing around and laughing too much during basketball practice, and it annoys our coach so much.
Brinca demais.
I never do my homework with my friend Scott because he goofs around so much that we end up wasting time.
Banco
My
engraçadinho.
little brother gets punished a lot, mostly because he goofs around before bedtime and drives my mom crazy at night.
Brinque enquanto você dirige.
Please don't goof around while you drive. It's dangerous, and you need to have two eyes on the road at all times. Elena is so serious that she won't ever goof around with us, even at recess.
Tempo de brincar.
Maya doesn't have time to goof around after school because she has to babysit her little sister and finish her homework before her mom gets home. The principal always seems to catch me when I'm goofing around too much in the hallway.
Boss around. Manda em mim.
I hate when my coworker bosses me around like she's in charge of the place.
Está sempre mandando em seus amigos.
Kaylee is always bossing her friends around and making them do whatever she wants.
Mandar nas pessoas.
Milena can't stop bossing people around. It's just her nature to be in control. The head chef is always bossing around the waiters at the restaurant as if they aren't working hard enough already. Even though he is the captain of the team, I still don't think he should be able to boss us around the way he does.
Mandar na gente. Mandava nela.
Samantha always got so upset whenever her manager bossed her around, making her feel like she wasn't doing a good job at work.
O diretor mandou.
The principal bossed Mrs. Brown around so much that she finally got tired of it and quit in the middle of the school year.
Mandava em mim.
I don't like it when you boss me around when I'm gardening, like I can't figure out how to pull a weed on my own. The doctors are always bossing around the nurses, especially when they are new. I feel weird bossing around my new employee because she is so much older than me.
Chicken out. Se acovardaria.
I knew Kara would chicken out once she saw how high the high dive actually was.
Acovardou.
Molly chickened out when she realized that the hike was 3 hours long.
Covardasse.
My husband wouldn't let me chicken out of the hot air balloon ride because we had already paid so much money for it.
Fica com medo.
Sometimes people chicken out of swimming in the river when they find out that alligators have been seen here occasionally.
Se acovardado.
Kate was glad she didn't chicken out because skydiving was one of the coolest experiences of her life. If you chicken out of going on the cruise, you know Brett is going to chicken out too. Nina chickened out of the fishing trip when she realized how far they were going to be out in the ocean. I'm normally pretty nervous about things, so I'm surprised I didn't chicken out of skiing on that Black Diamond Mountain. Sally is so scared of anything that she would probably chicken out of going down a kiddie slide at the playground. Even though all my friends jumped from the ledge, I chickened out and couldn't do it.
Zip up. Fechar o zíper.
You need to zip up your book bag so your things don't fall out. It was so windy that Greg had his jacket all the way zipped up. Mom always makes sure we zip up the bag of coffee so that it doesn't lose its freshness. I zipped up some medicine in a plastic bag so we could take it on the hike with us.
Fechada.
Kellen's bag wasn't zipped up all the way, and some of his things were lost in airport security.
Fechar a sua boca.
You better zip up your mouth before you ruin the surprise party.
Fechar sua boca.
Marty should have zipped up his mouth before he told too much about the company's finances.
Fecha a boca.
Zip it up before your baby brother wakes up from his nap.
Fechar a boca.
Natalie needs to remember to zip it up before she talks about the secret party to her parents. I think Dad has a surprise for us this weekend, but he's kept it zipped up all week.
Warm up. Carly esquentou o que sobrou do jantar de ontem à noite.
Carly warmed up the leftovers from last night's dinner in the microwave so that she could eat them for lunch today.
Esquentar do frio lá de fora.
Jump in the heated car so you can warm up from the cold outside.
Esquentar seus pés.
Maya put on an extra blanket so she could warm up her feet after swimming in the ocean.
Se aquecer antes de jogo.
The team always does a series of stretches to warm up before a game.
Aquecia e apronta.
After 10 minutes of practice hitting, Selena felt like she was warmed up and ready for her tennis match.
Se aquecer.
If you don't warm up properly, you might pull a muscle or injure your body. I'm going to go turn on the car so that it will warm up while we are waiting for Mom to come down. Marcy preheated the oven to 200 degrees so that it would already be warmed up when she was ready to put the cupcake batter in. Justine's computer is so old that she has to turn it on and let it warm up for a few minutes before it will start working correctly.
Animados e prontos para bons momentos.
Mac always arrives late to parties so that the other guests will already be warmed up and ready for a good time.
Animou-se.
When the band started playing more upbeat music, the crowd really warmed up.
Se anima.
Sherry is shy, but she can be really funny once she warms up to you.
Top up. Encheu com mais refrigerante.
Hidalgo's cup was almost empty, so the waitress topped him up with more soda.
Encheu.
I may have put too much sugar in my mug, so would you mind topping me up with a little more coffee? If you finish your vegetables, I'll top up your portion of mac and cheese. Can you top up my bowl with just a little more ice cream? Theo had almost finished his glass of wine, so he asked his mom to top up his glass. Janie got an extra waitressing job to top up her savings account. If you get that bonus at the end of the year, that will top up our money for vacation.
Irá completar.
When you need more minutes on your cell phone, just top up your plan with more money. Ned needs a promotion in order to top up his bank account and get ready for the new baby. I asked my mom for a top-up in allowance so I could buy a new video game.
Step in. Intervir.
When I heard the two women who were talking about being lost, I couldn't help but step in and tell them where to go.
O diretor interveio.
The principal stepped in when he could tell the two girls were about to start fighting.
Intervir quando as batatas pegarem fogo.
Johnny was trying to cook dinner for the family, but his mom had to step in when the potatoes caught on fire.
Entrar no seu lugar e dirigir pouco.
If you are getting too sleepy, I can step in and drive for a bit.
Meu pai sempre intervém.
My dad always steps in whenever my older sister starts making fun of me.
Entrar e carregar outra ponta.
If the couch is too heavy, just ask Jake to step in and carry the other end.
Entrar por momento.
Maria just wanted to step in for a moment and see where all the loud music was coming from.
Podia entrar e dançar.
Julius asked Mark if he could step in and dance with Marcella before the music stopped.
Entrou e jogou.
Since they needed an extra player, Mike stepped in and played striker for the second half of the soccer match.
Decidiu entrar no aniversário mesmo assim.
Myron was a little nervous about seeing his ex-girlfriend, but he decided to step into the birthday party anyways.
Rip-off. Foi tanta enganação.
That tour was such a rip-off because we only got to see 3 or 4 things.
Que enganação.
My meal last night was expensive and not that tasty. What a rip-off.
Me enganou.
The car rental place ripped me off, even though I filled the tanks with gas when I brought the car back.
Foi roubado.
His car was ripped off when he left it overnight in a parking garage.
Foi roubado.
If you leave your car unlocked, it might get ripped off.
Roubaram.
The burglars ripped off my car before the police heard the alarm.
Remover rapidamente.
If you will just rip off the Band-Aid, it won't hurt so badly.
Remover a fita rapidamente.
My mom always says if you rip off the tape quickly, it won't peel any paint off the wall.
Remova rapidamente.
Rip off that price tag so she won't see how much we paid for the picture frame.
Ele arrancou antes de colocá-la na máquina.
Jed's sticker was stuck to his shirt, so he ripped it off before he put it in the washer.
Arranca aquele cupom.
Why don't you rip off that coupon and we can use it at the restaurant?
O ladrão arrancou a
The thief
etiqueta.
ripped off the tag before the store owner could tell that he had stolen it.
Pay for. Pagar pelos ingressos.
I didn't have enough cash to pay for the tickets, so I'll have to buy them later. George said that we could pay for the t-shirts when we get to the festival.
Pagar por.
Mr. Myers had saved up for a few months so that he could pay for a new grill. My mom told me I would have to use my own allowance to pay for video games.
Pagar pelos.
Melanie didn't want to pay that much for a computer that didn't have a camera. Marcella didn't put on sunscreen, and she definitely paid for it later. We ran over 15 miles yesterday, and my calves are going to pay for it today. I chose not to bring water to the beach, and I'm going to pay for it when I get thirsty. Hank didn't call his mom to tell her about his new job, and he's going to pay for it when she finds out from someone else. You're going to pay for it if you don't buy your girlfriend something for her birthday.
Você vai sofrer as consequências. Make out. Pude discernir.
It's so loud in here that I couldn't make out what she was whispering in my ear.
Não pude discernir o que estava sussurrando no meu ouvido. Não pude discernir qual caminho ir.
The letters on the road sign were so small that I couldn't make out which way to go.
Alunos discernirem.
Sometimes Mr. Andrews talks too softly for his students to make out what he is saying.
Agora faça e escreva o cheque da doação.
Just make out the donation checks to the Association for Cancer Research.
Fazer e escrever o vale presente.
Who should we make the gift certificate out for?
Fazer e escrever cheque.
I was so surprised when Justine made out a very generous check for my birthday.
Pintou suas realizações anteriores.
The potential employee made his previous accomplishments out to be more impressive than they actually were.
Pintou o filme como sendo dos mais divertidos.
The newspaper made out the movie to be a lot more funny than we thought it was.
Passou a impressão que seria.
My experience at the haunted house wasn't as scary as you made it out to be.
Minha priminha finge ser uma princesa.
My little cousin always makes out to be a fairy princess when she is playing. When he was little, Johnny would always make out to be a pirate.
Fingia ser pirata.
Sometimes, in front of our friends, we make out to be wealthier than we actually are.
Fingimos ser mais ricos. Dar uns amassos.
The new couple could hardly stop making out long enough to have a conversation.
Dar uns amassos.
John and Selena went to the spot on the cliffs where people always go to make out. Margot wouldn't make out with Jimmy because she thought he was too young for her.
Let down.
Jake knew he was going to let Maria down if he didn't come to her concert.
Decepcionar. Desapontar minha filha.
I can't let my daughter down, so I need to be on time to her piano recital tonight.
Desapontado.
Mike wasn't really let down, but he was a little sad that they canceled the festival.
Você pode soltar a corda.
Will you let down the rope so I can climb back up?
O marinheiro soltou a escada.
The sailor let down the ladder so the swimmers could climb back aboard again.
Gretchen soltou seu cabelo.
Gretchen let down her hair so that it would look nice with a hat on.
Desanimou pouco.
The song was exciting at first, but the second course was too slow and let down a bit.
Desanimou deles.
Mr. Richer thought the book was good until the ending let down too much.
Desanimou quando o ator ficou muito
The
nervoso.
performance really let down when the actor got so nervous.
Hold back. Kelly segurou sua irmã para que ela não caísse da beirada.
Kelly held her little sister back so she wouldn't fall over the edge.
Amarrar seu cabelo.
I always have to hold my hair back while I eat pasta because it's so messy.
Segurar Mark para que ele não tentasse
The
soltar.
principal had to hold Mark back so he wouldn't try to punch John again.
Impediu, atrapalhou.
Jessie's difficulty with reading always held her back from doing well in school.
Me impediram de ir.
My parents didn't really like to take risks or go on adventures, so they always held me back from going on camping trips.
Segurassem para ele.
The teacher didn't think Nathan was ready for second grade, so she suggested that his parents hold him back to repeat first grade one more time.
Segurar suas respostas.
Isa is very smart and always has the correct answer, but her teacher has asked her to hold back her answers so that other students can have a chance.
Consegui segurar mais a risada.
The story Jamila told was so funny that I couldn't hold back my laughter any longer.
Segurar seus pensamentos.
Even though he knew she was strong, Marco decided to hold back his thoughts about Jenna's political opinions.
Segurar sua raiva.
Mr. Jula had to hold back his anger when his boss yelled at him for the second time today.
Segurar minha empolgação.
I had been waiting to hear about it for so long that I couldn't hold back my excitement about their engagement.
Segurar suas lágrimas.
The little boy couldn't hold back his tears anymore, especially when they asked him how long ago his dog had died.
Segurar para dar celular.
My parents decided to hold back on giving my little sister a cell phone until her grades improved.
Eu esperei e segurei para dar seu número para o
I
garoto.
held back on giving the cute boy my phone number until I knew if he was a nice person.
O patrão de Janete esperou, segurou o bônus dela.
Janet's boss held back her bonus until she had completed the projects due at the end of the month.
Kick off. Nós vamos começar a iniciar.
We are going to kick off the school year with a pool party at my teacher's house.
Lançar, iniciar.
The manager decided to kick off the sale with an email flyer to alert customers about the deals.
Começar.
Let's kick off this celebration with some champagne.
Seu técnico o expulsou da equipe.
After Hugo got 3 red card penalties in a row, his coach kicked him off the team.
Foi expulsa da equipe.
Marcy was kicked off the team because she was late to practice for 3 weeks.
Eu posso ser expulso da equipe.
I might get kicked off the leadership team if I don't pass this certification test.
Sendo desconectado da rede Wi-Fi.
Since our log cabin was so remote, I kept getting kicked off of the Wi-Fi network.
Eu sou desconectado do meu
Every
e-mail.
time George tries to log into his email account, it kicks me off my email.
Você pode ser desconectado da internet.
You might get kicked off the internet if you sit too far away from the wireless router.
Chute inicial.
It took so long to park that car that we missed the opening kickoff of the football game.
Deram chute primeiro.
The visiting team won the coin toss, so they get to kick off first.
Chute de partida.
Hank couldn't believe that he scored a goal after the first kickoff of the match.
Flash out. Sacar. Cash out.
After she'd had the bank bonds for 4 years, she decided to cash out and get money for a beach vacation.
Sacar o dinheiro.
I want to cash out before these stocks lose any more value this year.
Sacar seus ganhos.
Jennifer had the winning raffle ticket and went to the organizer to see how she could cash out her winnings.
Sacar o dinheiro.
My dad always says that if you cash out too early, you might not make as much money as when you are patient with your investments. 4 people showed up to the lottery office the day after they announced the winning ticket numbers to cash out their winnings. Margaret had a few checks from the last few weeks of babysitting that she wanted to take to the bank to cash out.
Sacar.
The legal agreement says that any person under 18 is not allowed to cash out their trust fund without permission from a parent or guardian.
Sacar seus investimentos.
Nancy wanted to cash out her investments so that she could go ahead and buy the beach house she had been dreaming about. My stockbroker suggested that I wait to cash out my stocks in April. That way they will have a little more time to make some growth. Kelsey thought it was too early to cash out her investment in the company, but didn't really see their profits going anywhere.
Go off. Explodir.
The officers raced to get to the park and stop the bomb from going off. Even though we were in the town over, we could still hear the fireworks going off. Jenny was so angry about what happened that she couldn't help going off on her boyfriend Sam.
Tinha parado de funcionar.
When my cell phone wasn't charged in the morning, I knew the power in the charger had gone off.
Parou de funcionar.
The thunder and lightning were so intense that our power went off for a few hours.
Desligue depois de 3 horas.
The TV is on a timer so that it goes off after 3 hours.
Eu parei de gostar de bife.
I went off steak after I realized it had so much cholesterol.
Jenny parou de gostar de Mac.
Jane got off Matt after he was such a jerk to her for so long.
Pararam de gostar.
The Johnsons got off of Myrtle Beach after the shark attacks were too frequent.
Quer partir para a mata.
Kyle wants to go off into the woods and think about his big decision.
De partir para a caminhada
My mom
sozinhos.
always loves to go off on walks by herself in the morning.
Partindo para o shopping.
Nina is going off to the mall to look for a new purse.
Desperta às 6h45
Jan's
da manhã.
alarm always goes off at 6:45 in the morning so that she can exercise before work.
Apitar depois de 1 minuto.
My toast always gets burnt too quickly, so I set the toaster to go off after 1 minute.
Toca a tarde.
As soon as the bell goes off in the afternoon, the students leave the school building quickly.
Estragou.
This milk has been in the fridge for over a month, and I think it's gone off.
Estragou. Ganaf.
Mary thinks the eggs have gone off because of how they smell.
Estragado.
The mangoes had gone off and were definitely too mushy to eat for breakfast.
Que ele pode sair do script e ainda ter uma performance incrível.
Jeff is such a good actor that he can go off script and still have an amazing performance.
Saímos da trilha.
If we go off the trail too much, we might not be able to find our way back to the campsite.
Sai da dieta.
Every time Janelle goes off her diet, she always gains weight back really quickly.
Freshen up. Lavar minhas mãos e o rosto no banheiro por alguns minutos.
Since I don't have time to take a shower, I'd at least like to go freshen up in the bathroom for a few minutes.
Freshen up.
Before he sat down to dinner, Mr. Ramirez wanted to freshen up after his baseball game.
Freshen up. Lavar as mãos e
After
o
running
rosto.
to the office so she wouldn't be late, Lena had to stop by the bathroom to freshen up before the meeting with her boss.
Ajudá-lo a atualizar seus conhecimentos da tecnologia.
It's been a few years since Bob has used Microsoft Office, so I think you will need to help him freshen up on the technology.
Melhorar seu talento.
Rebecca wanted to freshen up her talent on the piano, so she signed up for weekly lessons with someone who used to be a professional musician.
Atualizar meus conhecimentos.
I need to freshen up on my knowledge of the latest design concepts before I interview for that new job.
Limpá-los pouco.
Marcia took a few dresses to the dry cleaners to freshen them up a bit.
Renovar a velha
A
cômoda.
new coat of paint will help to freshen up the old dresser.
Renovar seu quarto.
Mrs. Luna bought a new comforter to freshen up her guest bedroom.
Drive by. Dá uma passada.
Katie wanted to drive by and see if that old house was still for sale. If you happen to drive by the store, will you pick up some milk?
Dá uma passada.
Mr. Hernando drove by the old graveyard every day on his way to work. The realtor just wanted us to do a quick drive-by and see if we liked the house that she had just listed for sale.
Dá uma passada.
If Kamala can drive by before it gets dark, she will be able to see the new park sign. The restaurant has brochures on the outside of the door, so you can just drive by and pick one up to find out about their prices. Dad said he could drive by the store after work and pick up some pizzas. If you don't make it to the shop tonight, just drive by and drop off the money in the morning.
Houve tiroteio entre as gangues.
There was a drive-by shooting between two gangs and 5 people were killed. The rumors about the potential drive-by shooting never actually came true.
Bring back. Isso revive, traz de volta memórias da minha viagem.
Every time I smell basil, it brings back memories of my trip to Italy. When that song comes on, it brings back feelings of excitement from my senior year of high school. Even though we broke up, that picture always brings back good thoughts about my ex-boyfriend. I can't believe so many people are bringing back Polaroid cameras to use at parties. Mom, you need to bring back that old chicken soup recipe you used to make. I wish McDonald's would bring back the McRib, because it's my favorite guilty pleasure. If you think he can still play, we should bring back Jorge to be our relief pitcher.
Seu nosso lançador substituto. Trouxemos James de volta.
When we brought James back into a management position, the company started doing better again. As soon as they brought back the chef they fired last month, the restaurant gained a lot of popularity among old customers. Haley brought back a shirt that said Olympics 2016 from Rio de Janeiro. Every time I go to the beach, I bring back seashells to put in my kitchen. You should bring back some old records when you go to that antique store. After 15 minutes of using the Heimlich maneuver, the little boy was brought back to life. I think if you water your plants more, you can bring them back to life.
Revivê-las.
The doctors tried to use the best emergency techniques, but were not able to bring him back to life after the heart attack.
Ask for. Pedir uma recomendação de emprego.
I emailed my professor to ask him for a recommendation for a job. My mom says I'm always asking her for too much money, like she's a human bank. Sarah called the library to ask for a copy of the book she needed for class.
Chama o gerente.
When you go to the store, ask for the manager, because he can give you a discount.
Chama o farmacêutico.
Justin needed more information about his medicine, so he went to the drugstore and asked for the pharmacist.
Chamar o médico.
If you are really feeling a lot worse, I think you should stop talking to the nurse and ask for the doctor that is on call.
Pedindo.
Keel is so purposefully annoying that he is just asking for it from those bullies.
Pedindo ao inclinar-se.
I always tell Sammy that he's just asking for it by leaning so far back in his chair.
Pedindo.
If you put your hands too close to the horse's mouth, you are going to be asking for it.
Que eu não poderia ter pedido por nada melhor.
The trip was so relaxing and peaceful, I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Não poderia ter pedido.
Zamina couldn't have asked for a better 15th birthday party, since it was the most extravagant and special night of her life. You couldn't ask for better views when we were riding in the helicopter above the huge Grand Canyon.
Cut in. Isso é ridículo. Sue interrompeu. Cut in.
That's ridiculous, Sue cut in.
Interrompendo.
During the debate, my opponent kept cutting in.
Interrompendo.
While Gloria was telling us her story, Tom kept cutting in on her. Who cut in on my telephone call? He cut in the line when he joined his friends.
Furou a fila.
She was late, so I let her cut in.
Furou a fila na minha frente.
I get annoyed when people cut in line in front of me.
Fechou bem na minha frente.
I almost ran off the road when that car cut in right in front of me.
Cortou na minha frente.
A red car cut in ahead of me and nearly caused me to run off the road.
Carro fechou, cortou e
A car
quase
cut in and nearly caused an accident.
interrompeu a dança deles.
Jane was quite pleased when Arthur cut in on their dance.
Interrompeu minha dança.
That guy cut in on me and my partner at the dance.
Interrompeu.
I wanted to finish the dance, but she cut in.
Começava a funcionar.
The cooling system cuts in when the temperature gets too high.
Começa a funcionar.
The air conditioning will cut in as soon as the room gets too hot.
Começam a funcionar.
The fans cut in when the engine starts getting too hot.
Nós vamos te incluir.
We'll cut you in if you help us.
Eles não me incluíram no acordo.
They wouldn't cut me in on the deal.
Max se recusou a incluir seu parceiro Lev.
Max refused to cut in his partner Lefty. We can't cut you in. There's not enough. After she won the money, she said she would cut me in for some of it.
Get on. Embarcar.
The bus was packed, but I was still able to get on.
Embarcar. Caramba.
I got on the train to California. Once the kids got on the bus, I was alone for the day. Can we please get on? Because there are a lot of things still to discuss.
Continuar.
I need to get on and cook this chicken before everyone gets here.
Continue com ele.
Stop complaining about the work and get on with it. How are you getting on?
Cobrar o Bill.
It's time to get on Bill about his homework. He's falling behind.
Cobrá-lo.
John is supposed to empty the trash every day. He didn't do it, so I'll have to get on Sarah about the deadline.
Coloquei meu casaco e chapéu.
I got my coat and hat on and left the dull party. The kids got on their boots and played in the snow. She got her shoes on so that she could go out. I always got on well with my roommate.
Me dei bem.
My parents and I don't get on.
Se dão muito bem juntas.
Our children get on very well together. How do you get on with John?
Estão ficando velhos.
My grandparents are getting on in years, so they bought a condominium in Arizona. Aunt May is getting on in years.
Ficando velhos.
They were both getting on in years. My grandfather is getting on in years.
Zoom in, out. A cena da zoom.
The shot zooms in through a window to a family sitting at a table. The camera zoomed in on the love scene.
Deu zoom.
The camera zoomed in to show his horrified expression. The camera operator panned in slowly.
Deu zoom lentamente. Concentrou.
She zoomed in and dealt quickly with the problem at hand.
Vamos nos concentrar.
Let's zoom in on this matter of debt.
Nos concentrarmos nos problemas.
In our presentation, we zoomed in on the financial problems facing the company.
Diminuiu o zoom.
The camera zoomed out from the house to reveal the vast landscape.
Diminuiu o zoom.
In the last shot, he zoomed out to a wide view of the garden.
Diminua o zoom.
This computer software allows you to zoom out of the document to see the entire page.
Eu quase perdi o controle.
I nearly zoomed out when I got the news.
Fred perdeu o controle.
Fred zoomed out and started screaming at John.
Perdeu o controle quando a
He
vi.
will zoom out when he sees her.
Wipe out. Wipe out. Max pretendia apagar a gangue do Left.
Max intended to wipe Lefty's gang out.
Left apagou a gangue do Max.
Lefty wiped out Max's gang.
Matar muito dos aldeões.
This disease could wipe many of the villagers out.
Os invasores mataram toda a população.
The invaders wiped out the entire population of the countryside.
Matou todos no condado.
The storm ruined the corn crop and wiped out everyone in the county.
Arruinar completamente o prédio danificado.
Another strong wind could wipe the damaged building out completely.
Destruiu a estrada.
A mudslide wiped out the road to the village.
Destruiu a reputação do político.
A silly remark wiped the politician's reputation out completely.
Nos destruiu.
The loss of my job wiped us out.
Nos esgotou.
The hike up the mountain wiped us out.
Esgotou todo o time.
The long practice wiped out the whole football team.
Esgotam.
The early morning meetings really wiped me out.
Esgotaram completamente as dívidas.
The company's renewed sales wiped their debts out completely.
Esgotou o superávit do orçamento.
The reckless spending wiped out the budget surplus.
Gasto irresponsável.
I wiped out and skinned my knee.
Eu caí e esfolei meu joelho.
I wiped out and skinned my knee.
Eu caí e quase bati em outro
At the
esquiador.
top of the hill, I wiped out and nearly hit another skier. If I wipe out again, my mother says I'm through.
Estou acabado. Switch off. Desliguei o motor.
I parked the car and switched off the engine.
O aquecimento desligou.
The heating is switched off.
A televisão desligou.
The television switched off after I went to sleep.
Desliga o aspirador de pó.
Switch that vacuum cleaner off so you can hear what I'm saying.
Nós
He switched off the lights before we left the house.
desliga e me ignora,
He just switches off and ignores me.
perdendo o interesse.
You could see that the audience was switching off.
Desliguei.
I got tired of listening and switched off.
Perdeu todo o
The whole
interesse.
class switched off when the professor started talking about accounting.
Desligar.
I want to go home and switch off. Just forget this whole day.
Desligar.
I have to switch off when I go home.
Switch on. Não liga, acenda a luz.
Don't switch on the light. The machine switches on automatically.
Ligaram, acenderam.
Exactly at midnight, the lights switched on.
O rádio ligou.
The radio
cedo.
switched on early in the morning to wake us up.
Ligue o ventilador.
Please switch the fan on. I switched the fan on to cool down the kitchen. He switched on the lights and entered the room.
Ligou. Fez com que todas as crianças ficassem animadas.
The wild music made all the kids switch on and start to dance. She switched on the charm as soon as he walked in.
Animou-se.
She saw her child and immediately switched on.
Stop over. Fazer uma parada em Pittsburgh.
Marge decided to stop over in Pittsburgh to see an old friend.
Fazer uma parada.
It's fun to stop over at Disney World on the way to Miami. I wanted to stop over in India on the way to Australia. That's a good place to stop over. There are some nice hotels in Philadelphia. We stopped over in New York on our way to Seattle. We stopped over in Miami on the way here. On our way to New York, we stopped over in Philadelphia for the night. We stopped over in Athens for a few days on our way to India.
Fazemos uma parada.
Maybe we'll stop over there some other time. That was the last stopover, and Santiago was quite near.
Última escala. Piss off. Me irrita.
It really pisses me off when you talk like that.
Irritar.
That's enough to piss off anybody.
Me irritou.
She really pissed me off.
Irritados.
I think everyone is pissed off about the parking problem.
Realmente me
It
irritou.
really pissed me off that they didn't help me out when I needed it. That letter pissed me off. She was pissed off because no one had called her.
Cai fora.
Can I borrow 20 pounds? Piss off.
Cai fora, Chris.
Piss off, Chris, and stop flooding my email with garbage.
Sai fora.
Piss off and stop bothering me.
Cai fora, seu
Piss off,
idiota.
you jerk. Get out.
Miss out. Não perca essa chance.
Don't miss out on this chance. You'll never have a better opportunity.
Perdi a festa do meu amigo.
I was sick last weekend, so I missed out on my friend's party.
Perdeu o recorde.
He narrowly missed out on the world record.
Perdi a oportunidade.
I missed out on getting in the class photo because I was sick that day.
Perdi o show.
I missed out on last month's concert because I was out of town.
Perdemos a chance de
We
conseguir.
missed out on a chance to get a cheaper mortgage.
Ou você vai perder.
There's a lot going on at the fair, so set aside the whole day or you'll miss out. An important fact had been missed out.
Estou perdendo.
Other people my age are married and have families, and I'm beginning to feel I am missing out.
Você não perderá.
We will be repeating the questions later, so you won't miss out.
Look into. Ele prometeu investigar a nova lei.
He promised to look into the new law.
E nós devemos
We
investigar.
must look into the matter of the missing checks.
Investigá-lo.
Don't worry about your problem. I'll look into it.
Eu terei que investigar essa questão.
I'll have to look into that matter.
Investigando as
A federal
acusações.
grand jury is looking into the charges of misconduct.
Investigou a história
The
dela.
police looked into her story.
Investigou a
The police
perturbação.
looked into the disturbance.
Ele olhou dentro do armário.
He looked into the cupboard and decided to make some soup.
Olhe dentro da caixa.
Look into the box and make sure you've gotten everything out of it.
Olhe no visor da câmera.
Look into the camera's viewfinder at the little red light.
Kick out. Sônia foi expulsa de sua casa.
Sonia has been kicked out of her house.
Nos expulsaram.
They kicked us out of the gym because it was needed for a basketball game.
Ela foi expulsa.
When the principal caught Lisa smoking in the bathroom, she was kicked out.
Tinham sido expulsos do clube.
George said they'd been kicked out of the country club.
Eu fui expulsa.
I got kicked out of French class for making fun of the teacher.
Eles vão te expulsar.
If you make too much noise in the movie theater, they'll kick you out.
O dono os
The
expulsou.
owner kicked them out of the restaurant for being loud and disorderly.
Ela chutou violentamente seu agressor.
She kicked out wildly at her attacker.
O avestruz chutou os homens.
The ostrich kicked out at the men trying to catch her.
A mula chutou e por pouco me errou.
The mule kicked out and just missed me.
Hook up. Assim que eles conectarem o computador à rede,
As soon as they hook up the computer to the network, I can email my friends.
conectando,
Teachers are hooking up classrooms to the internet.
me conectar.
I can hook up to the library from my computer.
Eles
They
conectaram o
hooked up the
paciente.
patient with the tubes.
Ele conectou o microfone.
He hooked the microphone up to a tape recorder. I was traveling alone, but then I hooked up with another woman about my age.
Ele começou a sair com a...
We hooked up with the wrong crowd.
Nós concordamos em
We
sair
agreed to hook up after
depois da
class.
aula.
I joined the dating service to try to hook up with someone.
Saí com alguém. Saímos pela primeira vez.
My wife and I first hooked up when we were in high school.
Hook up. Saímos. Got up. Se a temperatura subir, a neve derreterá.
If the temperature goes up, the snow will melt. Gasoline prices are still going up.
Estão subindo.
We'd like to see the baby's weight going steadily up.
Subindo continuamente.
The price of oil has gone up by over 50% in less than a year.
Subir.
Prices keep going up and up no matter what. The monkey went up the tree in no time. How fast can you go up this rope? A new office block is going up on Oxford Street. New buildings are going up all over the city.
Estão sendo construídos.
Is the new building going up? After the storm, the whole building went up in just a few minutes. From the air, it looked as if the entire city was going up in flames. A spark from the train lit the nearby brush, and the entire field went up.
Max viaja para a Escócia.
Max goes up to Scotland to fish every summer. Let's go up to London next week.
Viajar para o Alasca.
Next summer, let's go up to Alaska, where it won't be so hot. We went up and stayed with a friend in Canada.
Fill up. Começando a encher.
By 8 o'clock, the restaurant was beginning to fill up. The rain barrel began to fill up during the storm.
Encher durante a tempestade.
The creek filled up after the heavy rain yesterday. The train filled up quickly, so we had to stand in the aisle. The gas tank is running low. We will fill up at the next little town. Jenny kept filling my glass up with champagne. I will fill the basket up with flowers. They filled me up with cakes and sandwiches. I filled up the sink with soapy water. We inflated the pool and filled it up with water.
Fill in. Preencha as palavras
Please
faltantes.
fill in your name and address in the space provided.
Preencha.
Fill in the missing words. I spent over 2 hours filling in the application form. I will fill in the form for you. The students filled in the test forms. We used cement to fill in the cracks. Will this hole in the ground fill in by itself, or should I put some dirt in? The canal is now disused and partly filled in.
Preenchido.
Did Sam fill you in about the new project?
Te colocou a par? Irá te
My
informar?
secretary will fill you in on the details.
Informe.
Please fill in the committee on the details.
Por favor, me inteire.
Please fill me in on what happened last night.
Por favor, informe a nova
Please fill in the new secretary about our rules.
Eu estou
I'm filling in for the receptionist at the moment.
Eu terei que substituir o Wally.
I will have to fill in for Wally until he gets back.
Substituir amigo.
He discovered his love of acting when he filled in for a sick friend in a college play.
It in, it out. Vamos comer em casa. Eu estou cansada.
Let's eat in. I'm tired. I really don't want to eat in tonight. Are we eating in tonight? It's raining outside, so let's eat in tonight.
Comer em casa.
Finally, we all ate in.
Jantar, comer fora.
It costs a lot of money to dine out often.
Comer fora.
I like to eat a meal out every now and then.
Comer fora.
Yes, it's good to eat out and try different kinds of food.
Comer fora.
We may eat out a meal or two, but
Eat
certainly
out.
not every meal. We're almost out of groceries, so let's eat out tonight.
Comer fora. Dry out.
Dry out your jacket in the clothes dryer.
Seque sua jaqueta.
Water the ground regularly to stop it from drying out.
Secaram a fruta no
They
sol.
dried the fruit out in the sun.
Secaram no clima
The
úmido.
clothes finally dried out in the wet weather. If you sit in the sun, your wet hair will dry out.
Ficar sóbrio
He
depois.
checked into a clinic to dry out after being arrested for drink driving. He dried out in 3 days.
Ele ficou sóbrio em 3 dias. Ficar completamente
He
sóbrio.
required about 3 days to dry out completely. The hospital will dry out Mary and start treatment. If the doctor at the clinic can't dry him out, no one can. After years of constant drinking, he realized that he needed to dry out.
Ficar limpo, dry out.
I need a few hours to dry out before I go out again.
Count in.
There's a party on Saturday. Count me in. If you're going on that skiing holiday, you can count me in. I'd love to go.
Conte comigo.
Please count me in for the party. Don't count me in for the party. Count in everyone who said they would attend. Can all the members be counted in? I'd love to come. Count me in. I hear you're planning a trip to the game next week. Count me in. Did you count the tall ones in? Did you count in the tall ones in the corner?
Break away.
Anna tried to break away, but he held her tight.
Eu tentei escapar.
I tried to break away, but he was holding me too tight.
Eu escapei do intruso.
I broke away from the intruder.
Ela fugiu.
She broke away at last.
Fugiu.
George's excited horse broke away and ran off into the field.
Escapar.
The boy tried to break away, but his mother held on to his coat.
Se libertar.
She was almost 30 before she finally broke away.
Se libertar de
He
sua
found
mãe.
it hard to break away from his mother.
Nos libertar.
We were trying to break away from the idea that men should not be affectionate with their children. Scotland isn't going to suddenly break away from the rest of Great Britain. The SDP broke away from the Labour Party. It was hard for me to break away from that organization, but I knew it was necessary. The cyclist broke away from the pack and was soon very far behind.
Answer back. Respondam.
I don't like children who answer back.
Retrucar.
Don't you dare answer me back.
Não se atreva a me retrucar.
Don't you dare answer me back.
Retrucá-la.
Her mother was shocked when she started answering her back and refusing to help. Take your hands out of your pockets and don't answer back, young man. If she gets bossy, answer back.
Retruque.
Don't answer back to your mother like that. Well-behaved children do not answer back when scolded. Don't answer back or I'll ground you for a week. After I requested a catalog from the clothing company many times, they finally answered back saying they didn't have any catalogs left.
Responderam.
We leave message after message with them, but they never answer us back. He answered back to my letter promptly.
Peel off. Descascar a casca.
You have to peel the skin off before you eat a banana.
Descascar.
Peeling off birch bark can kill the tree.
Descascar das paredes.
Paint was peeling off the walls.
Descascou a maçã.
She carefully peeled the skin off the apple.
Descascou.
She peeled off the orange's skin. I peeled off the wrapping from my new CD case and took out the CD.
Ellen removeu suas luvas.
Helen peeled off her gloves and got to work. The kids peeled off their wet clothes. The dancer peeled off her clothes during the show. It was so hot we peeled off our jackets.
Tiramos.
Eventually, the campers peeled their shoes and socks off as they sat on the beach. When the police blocked the road, a few protesters peeled off and left the march.
Abandonaram o grupo. Saíram até que
One by one, the members of the group peeled off until only Nelson was left.
name after.
We named our baby after my aunt.
Demos o nome do nosso bebê da minha tia.
My parents named me for my grandfather.
O nome do meu avô.
They named the baby after his grandfather.
O nome do avô.
The mountain was named after President McKinley.
Foi batizado com o nome do avô.
Albert was named after his grandfather.
Tio.
I was named after my uncle, who died in the war. My great-aunt Elsie, whom I'm named after, has no sense of humor.
Tia-avó Elsie.
Nissan Armada was a vehicle so big it was named after a fleet of ships.
Named after. Meu nome é em homenagem à minha avó.
I'm named after my grandma on my mama's side. It's near Times Square, which was named after the paper 100 years ago.
Jumping. Entre.
The lake is nice and warm. Jump in. Don't jump in the water here. There are rocks below.
Ela entrou.
She jumped in. I hit the gas, and we took off.
Entra no carro.
Jump in the car and let's go. She was so cold she just jumped into bed and pulled up the covers.
Eu pulei e tive
I jumped in and had a refreshing swim.
que eu poderia entrar.
I like your project. Do you think I could jump in?
Eu me juntei ao jogo
I
de
jumped
cartas.
in on their card game in the third round.
Entrei no meio da
I made a
discussão.
big mistake when I jumped in the middle of the discussion.
Eu entrei de cabeça.
As soon as they asked me to join, I jumped in with both feet.
Entrar imediatamente.
When Don found out what his job was to be, he was ready to jump in immediately.
Entraram.
Onlookers jumped in to break up the fight.
Interromper.
I wanted to finish the meeting quickly, but people kept jumping in. My neighbors jumped in with a strong objection at our town meeting.
Então,
He jumped in and told them exactly what he thought.
cheer on. Eu sempre torço para o time que está perdendo.
I always cheer on the team that is losing.
Cheer on. Torcer para.
So we were going out that afternoon and to cheer on our teammates as hard as we could.
Torcer para algo que...
What this team has done is they brought everybody together in this town to cheer on something they've never been able to cheer on before, DeLoreto said.
Eu gostaria de torcer para o Giants.
Would I want to cheer on the Giants in DiMaggio Stadium? No.
Encorajar outras pessoas.
She just existed to cheer on other people.
Eu estarei lá para torcer por você.
I'll be there to cheer you on when the race starts.
Nós torcemos por eles.
We cheered them on and they won.
Sam encorajou Jane.
Sam cheered Jane on.
A multidão estava
The
torcendo.
crowd was cheering on all the marathon runners.
Encorajava os
The
corredores.
spectators cheered the runners on as they passed by.
Torcendo pelo seu
They
time.
cheered their team on throughout the match.
Encorajar.
He needed no supporting cast to cheer on or question his decisions.
Agree with.
I simply do not agree with you. I agree with Mary that we should sell the car.
Concordamos um com o outro.
Since we agree with each other, the matter is settled. The protesters don't agree with capital punishment.
Eu não aprovo.
I don't agree with corporal punishment in schools.
Ele não concorda.
He doesn't agree with giving money to beggars. People may not always agree with you, and people may not always like you.
Combina com você.
The excitement of the big city certainly agrees with you. I find that country life really agrees with me.
Lhe cai bem.
The black color agrees with you. This dress does not agree with these shoes, does it?
Não me caem bem.
I didn't eat the crab cakes, since shellfish don't agree with me.
Afetou, não me cai bem.
I feel terrible. That food didn't agree with my stomach. Stop taking the medicine if it doesn't agree with you. I love strawberries, but they don't agree with me.
Hit on. Eu achei que ele ia dar em cima de mim, mas ele não deu.
I thought he was going to hit on me, but he didn't.
Deu em cima de mim.
I can't believe that the bartender hit on me.
Dando em cima do George.
The women were all hitting on George, but he didn't complain.
Dando em cima
Pete doesn't
dele.
even realize half the time when girls are hitting on him.
Eu descobri isso quando eu não
I hit
estava.
on it when I wasn't able to sleep one night.
Descobrir a verdade.
She was scared he might hit on the truth.
Eu descobri Tom.
I hit on Tom in an amateur play production. I offered him a job in my nightclub immediately.
Pensaram em um estilo.
Adams and her record producer hit on a jazzy, sophisticated style.
Eles tiveram a ideia.
They hit on the idea of celebrating the occasion with a concert.
Ele pensou em um novo esquema.
She hit on a new scheme for removing the impurities from drinking water.
Nós finalmente pensamos em uma solução.
We finally hit on a solution to our financial problems.
A pedra me acertou na perna.
The stone hit me on the leg.
Eu bati no castor
I hit the beaver on its side, and it didn't seem to feel it.
e me acertou nas costas.
A branch fell off the tree and hit me on the back.
Ele se bateu na bochecha esquerda.
She hit herself on her left cheek.
Get back into. Eu quero voltar ao jornalismo.
I want to get back into journalism, and we have a great television news operation here.
Voltar à música.
A year after his band broke up, he wants to get back into music again.
Voltar à marinha.
Jonathan remained in Colorado because he was trying to get back into the Navy.
Voltarei às minhas aulas.
I'm getting back into my Khmer lessons after the summer break.
Como você voltou a isso?
How did you start writing songs again? How did you get back into it?
Voltarei à força de trabalho.
And you thought you'd get back into the workforce.
Nós voltamos ao hábito.
We got back into a habit of watching movies together.
Voltar ao hábito de pescar.
At first, he tried to get back into the habit of fishing, but he didn't really feel like fishing.
Mas eu estou animado com isso.
I lost interest for a while, but I'm getting back into it.
Voltar a se animar com isso.
He was trying to get back into it.
Voltei a me animar com a
I
minha
got back
rotina.
into a healthy routine when my stepdaughter started training.
Fall down. Eu caí e machuquei meu joelho.
I fell down and hurt my knee. The baby fell down. Walk carefully on this ice or you will fall down. I slipped on the ice and fell down the steps. A lot of trees fell down during the hurricane. With the explosion, the building fell down completely. And that's where the theory falls down.
Caí por terra.
The argument falls down when you look at how much it'll cost.
Caíram por terra.
Negotiations for broadcasting the game fell down over the issue of international TV rights. Their argument falls down on several important points.
Eat up. Coma todo o seu brócolis.
Come on, eat up your broccoli.
Coma tudo.
Eat up and we'll go for a walk. If you don't eat up your greens, you won't get any dessert. They ate the turkey up and no one had to eat leftovers.
Comeu toda a zebra.
The lion ate up the zebra very quickly. Having children eats up a lot of a
Consome.
family's income.
Os gráficos consomem nossa
The
banda.
graphics eat up our bandwidth. They're costing us a fortune.
Comandar essa residência consome meu rendimento.
Running this household eats my income up.
O carro realmente consome gasolina.
The car really eats up gas.
Ter filhos consome muito do rendimento da família.
Having children eats up a lot of a family's income.
Ela foi consumida por
She was
arrendimentos.
eaten up by regrets.
Estava simplesmente a consumindo.
The whole idea of visiting Australia was just eating her up. The obsession to own a car was eating up my brother and his friends. Paula was eaten up by guilt for days.
Consumida pela culpa. Estava apreciando.
The press argued over the book, and the public was eating it up.
Apreciaram.
The audience liked my singing. They really ate it up.
Apreciam toda a história.
The stuff about the federal budget went over well. They really ate up the whole story. Everyone was praising him for a job well done, and he was eating it up. He lied about everything, but he was so charming about it that she ate it up. Those people really eat that stuff up about tax reduction. They'll eat up almost anything you tell them.
Dial up. Conectem-se.
The service allows customers of the bank to dial up from their home computer.
Ligar a qualquer hora.
You can dial up anytime, as many times as you want, with no additional charge.
Você pode se
You can
conectar.
dial up and access your information.
Ligue.
Go stay with your parents. Dial up an old friend. A deaf person can just dial up another deaf person with a TV phone. I dialed up my dentist and made an appointment. Would you dial your sister up and ask her what time she's coming over? The director dialed up the action in the movie's sequel.
Aumentar o aquecimento.
She wants to dial up the heat. You know, someone said to me, why dial up pain? Why dial up a bad experience?
Aumentar.
My camera only allows me to dial up 9 exposures at a time.